really a career entrepreneur. I've done really the only thing I've ever done is start companies and run them. That started in university when I started a painting company and painted houses for a few summers with a bunch of students. Then I helped a friend of mine start a security company, installing video surveillance and alarm systems and things like that. Got that going. And then in 1995, this thing called the internet showed up. And so I thought it was kind of cool. I was a bit of a geek. I had a commerce degree, but I was a geek, and so I was emailing with my friends on the internet and decided that there must be some sort of business model to this internet. And I started a company called ISL. And ISL was really started off as a teaching company. We helped people learn how to dial up to the internet, understand the tools like Netscape and web browsers and things like that to get around the internet and find information on this World Wide Web thing that nobody knew anything about. That quickly moved into building websites, really, is the way that it started. So after teaching people how to use it, we started building websites. And we got recognized fairly quickly for doing things that were pretty innovative. We built the first e-commerce system here in Atlantic Canada. A few firsts here that we did. We were the first to put a quality certification system and an ISO certification around the way that you build a website so that we could differentiate ourselves from other people, which nobody's ever thought to do in the web design business at all. We were the first to use to get enterprise certification for Google Analytics. And this was around understanding the data coming off all these websites that we had built to figure out what people's behavior were so that we could make better decisions around how they shop, look, research for content all the time. And so really, really interesting time, I guess, throughout that life. But sometimes innovation can be super exciting, and sometimes it can kind of suck. As in, you know what Square is here? Everybody's seen it or used it in some way, shape, or form? So in 1997, after I was helping people use internet on their computers, somebody came up with the technology to put internet out to your cell phone. Seems like nothing today, but back then it was the new thing. And so we built some software that would allow you to do a real-time credit card authorization on your cell phone over the internet. Essentially what Square does today, and they only started in 2009, and we did it in 1997. This was an amazing experience, this company that we did start up. We raised millions of dollars in venture capital, flew around the world talking about mobile commerce as the next big thing. And it was super cool, but not a huge market at the time. So didn't get very far. 2001, that was the end of venture capital for the most part at that time. So we decided we had to shut the company down and say, you know what, great idea, about 10, maybe 15 years too early. So being innovative can be cool, but it doesn't always pay off at the end of the day as well. So I've, about a year and a half ago, I had a property company as well, I had a building. And about a year and a half ago, I sold everything. Sold my ISL, which is the main company I've had, sold my property company as well, and said, okay, I'm out of time. What am I going to do with myself? And wasn't really sure. And then there's an organization called the Nova Corp, which is a provincial crown corporation. And this organization finds, funds, and fosters innovative businesses that are trying to change the world. So pretty interesting activity to me, and that I get to go out and meet all these entrepreneurs who have come up with these crazy ideas, trying to turn them into products and trying to find markets to sell them in. So we provide a lot of coaching. Once we find them, we provide a lot of coaching. We provide venture capital and what we call non-dilutive or free money to these entrepreneurs to help get their companies moving further along the development of the organization. And we're doing this because you do a lot of research around how to build a better economy for a region. You know, getting Sobeys to hire another 2% of their workforce doesn't really do the trick for us here. Your faster mechanism to get to a more vibrant economy, which allows us to have more people engaged in the workforce, better learning, is through people starting innovative new companies. Because they hire more people faster, they generate revenue quicker, and in a lot of cases, if they grow quickly, they can actually sell their company and bring that capital back to the region. And we've had a lot of that happening in the last number of years, which is sort of what got me interested about this job. Is that I think it's over the last 5 years, we've had over $2 billion worth of exits. By exit, I mean people have sold their company for either $75 million or $500 million. And that's a crazy amount of wealth generation in a pretty short period of time. But the benefit of that is that those individuals are now reinvesting in new companies, investing in setting up new incubators, which we run at. Bolt is one of them. You may have heard of it. And these have all been instigated by other entrepreneurs who have made a bunch of money, said, great, I'm going to start a couple new companies, invest in a bunch of new companies, and leave some money in the ecosystem to help it be better. So that's really our job, is to turn our region into one of the top 10 startup ecosystems in the world. So that's a crazy challenge, but it's something I got pretty excited about. Said, hey, I'm going to get involved in this. We do this through investment incubation, which is, you've got a company, you've got an idea, you've got a product. How do you scale that? How do you sell that to more people around the world and make sure you're selling it to the right market at the right time? We have a lot of experts that we can bring into these companies as well, help them learn about what they're doing and where they're going, to really help these companies accelerate. We do it in a number of different industries. Information technology, you're building apps and stuff. Clean technology, which could be alternative sources for energy or better ways to reuse and recycle everything that we buy every day. Life sciences, I'm going to tell you about a couple of these companies, which is more biotech, sciencey stuff. Oceans technology, which is a pretty big growing sector right now in our region. How do we leverage this giant asset that we're connected to, learn more about it, and build interesting technology? That's just really pretty pictures about all the things that we do that I just told you about. But let me tell you about the actually interesting things that we are invested in right now. So these are some pretty interesting companies. Spring-loaded technologies. I don't know if you've heard about them at all.
Yeah, I heard about them.
So a couple guys, Chris Copper-Smith and Bob Garnish and Shay Keewan, sort of came up with this idea, like how can we make a better knee brace that actually provides physical support back, more like a bionic knee. And it was impossible before they did it, but they came up with the science to make the spring out of different materials, put it into a small hinge around the knee, so that when you're actually bending, it's actually assisting you when you're going down and coming back up. So really interesting product. They've tested it, they've proven it, they're using it in a number of different applications. But they also have the challenge of, this is a $2,500 piece of gear. Right? You get it, but it does an incredible job for those that have issues with knee problems. It's way more proven more therapeutically effective than any other type of thing. And they're competing with the $100 to $200 to $500 knee braces that you would traditionally see, which are simply just things to keep your knee in one place, whereas this one is actually assisting the mobility. But incredible world-beating technology, developed here, I think out of Dalhousie, and then commercialized here in Dartmouth right now. And it's something that is changing the way that we're thinking around how we're helping anybody, athletes included, mobilize themselves a little bit more effectively. Atlantic, another crazy super science project. So, when you get your blood tested, it goes away and you get it back in 24 hours, 48 hours, sometimes longer. Atlantic has developed what is called a lensless microscope. I didn't know what that meant. So I went over and talked to him. And he's got a little box, probably about that big. When you drop the blood in it, it gives you the blood test results immediately. And so it can dissect all the pieces of there and give you the information back immediately, which is a crazy piece of invention that this guy's come up with. So much so that this lensless microscope is going up on the next space shuttle to the space station, so they can use it up there. So NASA's fun. Thumbs up from an investor standpoint. Truly, which is a little different type of organization, but relevant for those of us who are always trying to feed athletes better food along the way. Truleaf has come up with a technology that allows us to grow hydroponically better produce really inside small buildings and small warehouses in a way that's highly effective and more nutritious than any other product we can get. So we don't need to ship lettuce from all over the world. You can grow it down more cost effectively and produce a better product. Pretty interesting piece of technology, again, developed here, being marketed worldwide right now, and a lot of interest from some very large players in the agriculture space. Now, when you think about coaching, you can't help but think about all the data that's coming off of all of our athletes all the time, and all the little tools and electronics that connect to us every day of the week to provide us more data than we'll ever need to know or can ever possibly use about how athletes are performing. So Conduct is a really interesting company that is building a platform that allows us to understand that data in a more effective way for these athletes. Probably one of the most successful sort of sports-based data science companies happening in the world right now is Conduct, and it's happening here in Nova Scotia, by Nova Scotia. Which is pretty exciting. And they have contracts, if you don't know much about them, with every major sports franchise, Major League Baseball, NFL, soccer teams. What's that? NCAA. So
Yeah.
NCAA.
Yeah, they're speaking at our conference. Just a little plug there, by the way. Yeah, you didn't even know that?
Yeah,
working
it. Selling it.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then I just got introduced recently to this really brand new startup, which is called Pareda. And this is it's an app. Again, it's about coaching data. It's about understanding the performance of what you've been doing to try and build a better understanding of how you as coaches can help coach your athletes more effectively. This is a brand new platform. Version 1, we're figuring it out. It's pretty cost effective. But, you know, it can be a real tool. And they talk to Travis over at Conduct, and I think it's an interesting add-on to what they're doing potentially as well. But again, another way to take the data around how coaches help athletes train better, put it into a system that allows you to manage and see the potential outcomes of what's going on. Now, I think it's important to think about two different things here, and you start. Really, this is about innovative thinking. I've got some little brain twister exercises at the end to help us understand what that means a little bit better. But there's an invention, and then there's innovative thinking. And these are two different things. Now, inventions come out of innovative thinking. But if we're not in that mindset of understanding what can we do differently every day, or believe that we can think differently and find a new way to do things, then it's difficult to understand that it's possible to do something different. Doing a little bit of research, you know, it's my research wasn't only with Dilbert, just for reference. I know that's usually what I would do. Yeah. But you know, when you look at how we're trying to help, well, how you're trying to help athletes every day be better, stronger, faster, you may find an interesting new way to do it. You know, you talk about it, publish it, tweet it, and bam, that information's gone out in the world, and all of a sudden this neat little piece of advance that you may have had is now gone, and everybody else has access to it as well. So it becomes really challenging to constantly keep on top of, or to say that an innovation or something new is something we can hang on to and utilize on a regular basis. But I think that it's important to recognize that innovation isn't always tied directly to technology. And I've got this backwards now in my slide deck, but I've got a couple of sayings that I think are pretty relevant overall in terms of you know, data you can think of as knowledge, but knowledge is not the limiting factor in coaching at the end of the day. It's creativity. So what are we trying to do? Trying to inspire people to believe that they can do something differently. They can achieve something beyond what they've ever achieved before. It's almost being a better salesman. In order to do that, to engage an athlete in that type of thinking, you have to find an interesting way to make their mind believe something that they don't believe right now, or to engage them around the block that they have in their head at the end of the day. I'm pretty involved in, my last slide sort of will demonstrate this, the arts community as well, which is a place where creativity, constructive criticism, and different ways of thinking is baked into the entire practice. And so when I connect sort of innovative thinking with the ability to think differently and constructively deconstruct what we're doing today as a learned behavior, figure out a different way to do it. That's the only way we're involved. Because really, to get to the invention, you have to constantly have the ability to learn and evolve faster, which was the point I was trying to make before. Around, if we're not capable of constantly thinking differently, applying a different idea to a new technique or tactic or approach, learn what's working and learn what's not, and do that at a more accelerated pace all the time, then we can never get better. We'll never beat the records that are out there today without that. And so what I believe is the most important practice is the constant focus on how do we train ourselves to think a little differently and challenge everything that we know about what we're doing and see if we can use it and learn something from challenging what we do and what we think we know in order to learn something better. Because as I said, so the obstacles aren't really, our obstacles are what we know, the programming, the repetitive behavior that we love to train and understand and put in front of people every day. But that programming also can constrain you along the way as well. And we know that because as soon as the record's broken, bam, a whole bunch of more records get broken immediately. It's just proven science that the brain, once it realizes there's more to be done, it will actually do more. And so this practice of constantly challenging how we do it and believing that we can do more is the practice of driving, from an athletic performance standpoint, the ability to achieve higher levels of performance along the way. So that's how I think about it. And there's some good examples here. Vince Lombardi, super famous, football coach. What was his innovation? What did he think differently? He was the first one to post subjective feedback around every athlete on the team on a board every day. And every athlete would come up to that board and just look at it. It wasn't based on anything. It was just like, Max is killing it today. Sam isn't. And so Max goes, yeah, all right, I thought I was doing really well today. And Sam goes, man, I got to do better. I got to beat Max tomorrow. And it ended up driving belief in the athletes that they can do more because they're seeing it was simply subjective advice that gave them the motivation to say, I can do better tomorrow. Coach wants me to do better. I can do better tomorrow. Really simple, manual, analog invention that drove, he's the most successful football coach I think their team coach there's ever been. I don't know if you know this, the story of Billy Beane, I think his name is, from the Oakland A's. If you've not seen this movie, it's a pretty decent movie. Whole different approach to a sport. Brought in university brains and analytical minds to look at the performance of players as a whole to make better decisions around to construct a whole team for better performance. Completely different than anybody's ever done it before in the world of baseball, and ended up winning at less cost, which is part of the Moneyball story, than any other baseball team. So again, looked at a problem that everybody else was doing the same thing over and over again, taking the same approaches to how they built a team and how they paid for their athletes, and turned it on its head. And big results came out of it. I think these I thought were the interesting examples of like an innovation doesn't have to be a great sensor or a bionic knee thing. It's how are you helping people believe that they can be better at what they're doing. So practical thoughts. Stole somebody's practical thoughts. So I've got her piece of Workman up there as my reference, which I think are just 5 really simple takeaways and maybe some interesting exercises as well. So, challenging your perceptions. That's how I've talked about innovation or innovative thinking is about being able to be comfortable with knowing that you don't know everything and changing your viewpoint on it. So let's answer this question. Sorry, test. It's fun. Dog get over without getting wet, without using a bridge, or without using a boat? How'd that happen?
Small river. Jumped over it.
Nope, didn't jump. Seems like a brain twister. What are the rivers frozen? Right? What's the variables in the equation here that are different, that I need to rethink in order to make what seems like an impossible statement ever come true? A frozen river. Dog can run over a frozen river. That's pretty easy. So this idea of challenging your own perceptions is a practice around, okay, I got to find a different way to do this, to think about it. Creating new patterns. Again, we're as humans and in our own life sort of constantly told to look at patterns, or understand patterns, or get in a pattern along the way. And being trained to recognize patterns is part of what we've become as humans. But we're also capable of reading through established patterns and getting understanding. Everybody read that. You know what it says? Can you get the meaning of that? And the science around this that was actually done is that, you know, as long as the first letter and last letter are in the right place, you can pretty well mess around most of the letters in a word. People can still read it and get the meaning of it. But a very different pattern from what we're seeing. If you were an English teacher, you look at that, freak right out. But again, disrupt your rigid thinking patterns, and we can disrupt it. And this just proves it, that we can learn from other things than what we're used to learning from. Rejecting stereotypes. Again, back to the pattern recognition. You know, we're all guilty all the time of, you know, making the broad sweeping opinion or point of view or judgment on anybody. And the stereotyping is constraining. It constrains your mind to think about only a certain amount of variables. So I know this is a good example or not, but you know, that's a young kid, looks happy, looks coachable. Maybe he'll take some direction. Maybe we'll get this kid to the Olympics. Doesn't look that old, so it's going to take a little time, right? Just won gold in the slopestyle event at the Olympics last week. 17-year-old kid got up late, didn't have his jacket.
It was a mess.
Yeah, disaster, but killed it, right? Put down a pretty good performance, a gold-winning performance, you know, which you wouldn't have think of by looking at this little Grom 6 months ago and saying that guy's going to win an Olympic medal. So these stereotypes are things that we need to break through as well, and I think we'll recognize that all the time. Think universally. I geeked out on this one a little bit, which is, you know, trying to again change the state of the problem. And so the story starts with, the invention of a really interesting thing that we use every day. Yay, all right. And so, you know, these things, these burrs that get stuck on us all the time, we get down into the science and say, well, how does that actually work? Well, that's how it works. And it turns into Velcro. One of the most successful inventions in the world. The guy that invented this didn't go out to think about how to build a better zipper or make a better button. So that wasn't his narrow view on it. It was like, how do I fasten things differently? So he was walking through the woods one day, saw his dog with a bunch of burrs on it, and said, how does that work? That's pretty sticky. That's hard to pull apart all the time. God, it's annoying. But it allowed him to answer a bigger question. And this reframing of the question is, I think, a big piece of it as well. It's not about making a better button. It's about how do I think about how things fasten together. find a better way to do it, and look for a solution somewhere else than just trying to look at a zipper every day and thinking how to make it zip a little different, because that will get you nowhere. So remote associations, final brain teaser, pretty well the end of my presentation, but a little more fun. The remote association test was developed in the 60s, and it challenges you to think of a single word that connects the concepts that are listed. So you get 3 words. Your job is to identify the 4th word that's related to the other 3 words along the way. So hopefully my build works on this. So I'll use this as an example. So we got paint, doll, cat. What's the word that can connect those 3 things together? House paint. No, smart guy. Doll house, house cat. And these are these training things that sort of push your brain to think about things a little different. Cheese. Nice. Oh, you guys are super smart. What am I doing here? Girl. Nice. This is the hard one. I couldn't look that one up, so I can't remember it. I can't read it in the small thing. Oh. Game. Yeah. Sorry. So again, simple little tools that again try to get your brain to work in a different way. So when I think about innovation, I think about that's the practice. That is the thing that as coaches, at least I try to do, is to help my team think differently every day about what we do. How do we build a better startup economy? How do we help a company be better? How do you engage an entrepreneur? They're the worst people to engage in anything. They're flying around, they think about 1,000 things at the same time, and you can't get them to sit still for 10 minutes. But yet there's a whole bunch of things that they don't know that they need to know in order to build a better company faster. And that's our challenge, is to figure out how to do that and coach them through that process as well. So I leave with the arts because, and this, you can't really see this, I guess. These are 3 pieces that are totem poles made out of golf bags by an artist named Brian Youngin. He's from BC, and he's pretty famous. He's done a bunch of work that you may have seen down the art gallery or not. But again, he's taken everyday thing, golf bag, and turned it into a symbol, used them to make a symbol that we're all familiar with, and have a commentary on everyday things that we use every day for, a sport that brings us enjoyment, and bring it back to what's important about the land that we're on. This is about critically and creatively thinking about the things that are in front of us and the people that are in front of us. How do we use that to challenge ourselves to think differently about how we're helping individuals understand what their capabilities are and how they can break through the blocks in their own mind to do something better. And hey, even more fun, come up with a really cool idea, build a better platform, sell it around the world, and make $1 billion, which I would love everybody here to do. And we'll help do that. So hopefully short and sweet, to the point, but would love to answer 1,000 questions, or 10, or 5, whatever you have in your brains for it. Thank you very much. Appreciate your attention.
Thank you, Malcolm. I have a couple questions for sure. Does anyone have any questions for Malcolm? I know I have a couple. Okay, I'll start. One question I had was how we're trying to change things differently, and this is relevant to all of you guys in the room for applying for grants, is how in your role do you decide what new idea makes sense to invest in versus like that's just not going to work?
Right.
Yeah, so when you hear like our new challenge is we would like to open it up to coaches and sport organizations to pitch innovative ideas where we had sort of a startup fund to invest in it, much like what you do, but when we're receiving them, how do we go, well, that's just like way out here versus like, yeah, that could work. Let's do that.
The way out there could be the one that actually really works.
Right. So how do you sort that?
That's a really challenging thing. I mean, I don't know why this came to me, but the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah, I used that recently. Okay, great.
And a good idea is only good if you can execute on it at the end of the day. So It's a really interesting challenge. I was actually talking to a company the other day they're very successful in their industry, but they need to diversify. They need new ideas, and they need to do the same thing. They need to promote their team to come up with ideas, identify and pick a few out of those, and it's really a bit of a crapshoot at the end of the day. But you look at how easy it is to implement, how cost effective it is to implement. What's really I find the biggest barrier all the time is what are you asking people to change in their thinking in order to adopt it?
That was one of my other questions.
That's usually the hardest thing, because you have to be able to clearly and concisely communicate what value this brings to you as a coach or as an athlete, so that you can get buy-in. Like all those innovations that I showed for those companies, the hardest part is getting people to change their way. Like, how am I going to, you can't give me blood results in 5 seconds. That's crazy, because the proven science says it takes me a whole bunch of times. No, I can do it. I can prove it to you 1,000 times. So, I think you have to look at, I guess, what resources you have, and the simpler the better, I find, especially for things like that. Like if it's simple, easy, big win, and somebody goes, oh yeah, I would do that in 10 minutes, and it's relatively simple to implement, that low-hanging fruit is the beginning of finding something that really has a lot of value at the end.
And that goes in, my other question was sort of how do you change the mindset about a new idea, especially in sport, when you go, okay, we're going to flip this upside down, we're going to do this differently.
Yeah, you got to game it up a little bit.
Sell it.
Yeah, like make it a challenge. Oh, you don't think it's going to work? Prove it to me. Prove to me that it doesn't work. If you do it the way I've asked you to do it, and it doesn't work, we'll get rid of it. And this same challenge we're dealing with right now is that corporate innovation isn't really well done in Atlantic Canada. All these medium and large-sized companies don't invest a lot in innovation. So I want to be able to say, look, I've got something really simple that might have some benefit to your business. And I'll be somewhat diligent about it, but I'm going to bring it to you, and I just need you to cut through the bullshit of your organization and try it. And the most important thing you can do is prove it wrong, because then we can take it away and retask those resources to something else. And if it works, it might actually be good for your business. And so I think that same sort of mentality applies. Is you got to challenge people to be part of the innovation by getting rid of the things that you believe are the things that you're doing all the time now, and they're the right things, and saying, look, just give it a try. Give me a solid investment of your time into this innovation and prove that it doesn't work to me. If you really don't think it's that good, well, prove it to me. And then we'll get rid of it.
Do you find that works because then you're not challenging what they believe right off the bat?
Yeah, you're getting them to put their money where their mouth is.
Right.
That's never going to work. Right?
Yeah.
But if you say, I say, no, well, you prove me it doesn't work. I've got 10 people already told me it's awesome. Well, it's not going to work because it's something else. Yeah, well, try it. Maybe a couple of your athletes will like it. Maybe they'll get better. Maybe you'll find it easier to communicate with them or talk to them or whatever it is. It's the hard part. So again, it's reframing the question. Don't see it as a barrier. See it as a challenge. How do you get over it?
How far along are these Beretta guys?
Yeah, that sounded interesting.
I know, I was like, YTP planning online? What? That's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's working. Yeah, if you can go online, check it out, call them. They're super keen for new people to use it.
Where are they based?
Here in Halifax.
Okay, perfect. Like that. Yeah.
Yeah. There's another one. I don't know. I forget what it's called, but they've got, this is a little out there, but they've got this thing that will sit on your head, and when you're doing certain activities, it measures the brain function, and it allows you, like if you're sitting on a plane going somewhere, it somehow works with your brain, and this sounds like crazy mind control, but to help you visualize the activities and build up those responses just by mentally doing it. I forget what it's called. It's a mental training tool.
Because I've heard of meditate, like ones that help you meditate, because they do the same thing. They give you feedback on your brain waves when you're meditating.
Yeah.
And then you can use that for visualization
Right.
or calming down. I know athletes that use that.
Yeah, this is an athlete-specific one for physical movements as well.
Right.
I don't know that one. It's a little fresher than the Beretta one, but the Beretta one's live. they're looking for people to use it, and they've got people using it.
There you go. Aren't you glad you came?
So yeah, jump on that one.
Yeah. So, does anyone else have any questions for Malcolm?
I got one.
Okay.
How do you push your staff to think in a new, innovative way while still getting their jobs they have to do done?
Oh yeah,
That's a good question.
right.
Yeah.
You know, that is the biggest mental hurdle. It's like, no, I got too many things to do to try something new. Right?
Yeah.
It's impossible. It's, you know, I find that people always are interested in doing something interesting. Sorry, use interesting too much there. So how do you engage them in saying, like, part of your job is to innovate here, to help think differently. And I just need you to try a couple things. Come up with it on your own. I don't care. But I need you to dedicate a little bit of your time to doing something in a way that we don't do it today, so that you can learn. So a lot of times it could be baked into their professional development program. Try something new. Sometimes you just have to dictate it and say, look, I just need you to try this a little bit and make it go. But if you can, I find the best way that I use is, like, everybody on the team has to come up with something interesting all the time, a different way of thinking about it. And it becomes a bit of a contest, and everybody has to sort of come up with something. Everybody wants to come up with a better idea than the other guy. Again, gamifying things is where people respond to things, because we're naturally built to try and achieve that. And so trying to build some fun into it is really the way that I can get people engaged in it faster. So that answers your question. Yeah.
Malcolm, when doing that, just further to that, do you set up, like, to overcome a certain thing? Or I'm just thinking, like, here at the Canadian Sports Centre, innovation is one of our themes. We're supposed to it's in our job description, we're supposed to all spend time every week thinking of innovative things.
Yeah, well, you're doing everything.
Right. Yeah. So then, and we all do different jobs. So, like, to kind of create that community or create a game of it, like, would it be best for us to come up with a challenge or something to think differently about, or it just becomes very, very broad?
Sometimes it can be, yeah, it is. I mean, I'm just trying to challenge people individually in your own thing.
Yeah.
Actually, like,
In your
thing.
area. Yeah.
I need a couple ideas out of you this year, and I need you to execute at least one of them.
Okay.
And tell me what you learned while you're doing it. Fail horribly, that's fine. Fail fast. But at least let me know you tried something.
Okay.
You know, the other way to do it is to, and again, this is the discipline of the management of it, is, okay, get a bunch of coaches in a room. Who's got a problem right now? What are you working on? What can't you get done today that you're just struggling with? And get people to start just brainstorming. The whole benefit of innovation is that you actually have to ask stupid questions. You're almost dictated to, because it's the only way you'll get around your perceptions of what the problem is about.
Everybody wants to challenge the stupid question.
Right. So yeah, throw a stupid question out there. Those conversations lead to things. There's a bunch of tools to facilitate that type of discussion. But, you know, getting everybody in a room and for, you know, it can be half an hour. Say, okay, who's got a burning problem right now? Somebody puts up their hand, you pick somebody and say, go. Okay, what's your problem? We're all going to throw crazy ideas at you until we come up with something different than what's been done before. You got to take one away and try it. And then that gets the person excited. Great, I got 3 or 4 different things to try here. Come back to the next one next week. How'd that go? That one didn't work. This one was kind of interesting, but this one really sort of made a difference to what I was doing. And then you've got that iterative feedback. Innovation is a lot about communication.
Anyone else?
Take kind of these concepts to the actual dressing room, for example. I mean, looking at the situation that we're in now with just the house league hockey team, where they're kind of at the top of the heap.
Yeah.
In their league, and they're playing towards the championship. House league hockey, you have kids that have there's a mixture of skill sets, of athletic ability, of IQ, and all of that. So the challenge to communicate to them
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how you might facilitate something like that when you're talking to the lowest common denominator, but it doesn't help kids that are of a higher ability. So how do you bridge that
you
gap?
can't not get away from individually coaching certain people within your organization. At the end of the day, your stars are your stars. They take a different approach. The ones that are just sort of there doing their job every day, but you need them doing their job every day.
Exactly.
You know, that's, again, it's a different strategy to how to communicate to them. Ideally, the whole team is focused on sort of some level of outcome, and they can connect what they do to where they're going along the way. But it is the challenge of it is that you try and put that vision. I try to put a vision out there for everybody to say, and each line, that probably example. You work with them a little bit as a smaller team, individually, what they're trying to do, and then you always have a few stars that you're always trying to engage in a very different way to keep them happy. Become leaders or whatever it is, you're making them believe they're a bigger part of the picture than what they think they should. I don't know if that helps.
That is really also validates coming back.
All right. Nice work.
I don't think we have any questions from online. You guys, yeah.
How do you, like as a young person entering, in the sport industry, have to gain respect to be able to, have that discussion with senior or higher up, say, hey, we need to try innovative thinking. How do you kind of break the way, break the ice there? Because it's tough. Like,
Yeah.
You might think you have the credentials to, but in fact, you don't have the respect from, some of the people that have been there longer or whatever it might be.
That's a challenging situation for sure. The couple things that come to mind for me is that those that have been around for a while, you have to sort of almost engage them to get a little bit of their respect. Say, look, I need a little bit of help here. We need to, as you can see, we need to drive a little change in what we're doing here. And I get a few ideas. I'm kind of new, but that's the whole point of having someone new, regardless of age, is to try some new things. And I hope you guys can be the leaders that you are because you've been around for a long time and help bring the rest of the team along so that they can be better at what they're doing as well. It's just one type of communication strategy around it. It's, sometimes you can't do anything about that. Sometimes you just got to make a change. And that in itself unfortunately, sometimes drives the respect that you need along as well. Because sometimes you do need to assert the authority that you do have to make it happen. But you can always just try and engage people, and those that get it will understand. And being authentic about the challenge that you're having to people, I find is the best way to get people engaged. And they're always willing to help, most of the time. Don't know if that's helpful.
Yeah, no, it's always challenging. Break that ice and break that barrier.
This role I took over, which I'm still sort of 5 months into, I've never taken over a team before. I've always built my own teams from scratch. So I'm walking into a team. I'm one guy's 11th CEO. How am I supposed to break on that? And so kind of a challenging situation for me to understand how to learn how to get these people engaged in what they're doing. Some because they've been at it for so long, and some because some are afraid because they know I'm going to bring some change with me, and some are like, don't worry about him. We'll have another one in a few years anyway. Don't worry about it. Right? So it's depends on the makeup of the entire team. And finding a few. And the thing that I sort of worked on immediately was to find a few confidants. Another guy who's been there only a few months longer than I, who sort of had a bunch of same questions I did. Someone who'd been there for a long time that I could at least relate with. And building a relationship with that person gave me credibility because they would talk to other people who've been there for a while and say, yeah, it's not that bad, actually. Don't be all afraid of it. It's going to help us. So you can build some allies in the organization in order to bring the whole organization forward and to build that credibility piece. Eventually, you do have to lay some hammer down and not be afraid of it. That's part of the deal.
Do you guys have any questions? No. All right. Well, huge thank you, Malcolm. I took like a page of notes, which is good for me, so I was quite interested. Yeah. So yeah, big thanks to Malcolm for joining us tonight.
Thank you for your time and attention. Really appreciate it.
And just to let you guys know, so we have a webinar next week. Whoops. On March 1st. I cannot remember the topic because we kept switching March and April back and forth. It's either nutrition or it's sports psychology. It's one of the two. So one's March, one's April. Our next in-person here is March 21st. That one's going to be really interesting. It's Yuli Albert. He's a local para-athletics coach. He's doing his master's in coaching. So he's basically coming in to present some of the work that he's been doing on Gold Medal Profile. And it's going to be good. So all of our national sport organizations are going to be going through what is Gold Medal Profile, what does it look like for our athlete. And what he's going to be doing is kind of giving a how-to session on, so you can kind of look at your own athletes, regardless of whether your national organization has done it or not. How do you look at your own athletes and kind of draw a long-term plan 8 years out? So his session will be very, very coaching applicable and quite interesting. And then our coaching conference, which Malcolm helped us frame up, is in April. So I know some of you guys, I think, are registered already, but registration's up and running online. And for those that don't know, we have 2 conferences running back-to-back this year. The first one's an excellence conference for full-time coaches running on a Thursday night, Friday. And then Friday night and Saturday is a community conference for community coaches who are working during the week. Both are at St. Mary's. And Conduct, who Malcolm mentioned tonight, is one of our 4 speakers. So that'll be pretty cool. We're excited about that coming up. So any other questions from you guys for me or Malcolm? All right, thank you guys again for attending in the room tonight. It was a small group in person, but yeah. And also for coaches that you don't have here, can you guys please pass the word that March 21st will be online as well. So from now on, we're going to try and do both. We're going to expand our reach online and then always have the in-person for the podium sessions as well. Yeah, please keep coming in person too. It's going to be really awkward if we all go online. Yeah.
Is there a spot where we can find this archives?
Yeah, we're building it. Sarah's helping me build it on the website, so we're going to have a YouTube channel that'll be available soon-ish. Right now, we've just kind of saved. What's that? Yeah. Yeah. We're still trying to figure out, too, like, what that channel looks like and the access to it, because it won't be completely open source. But yeah, right now, we just have everything saved, and then it will soon be on our website. Yeah. I'll let you know, Andrew, when it finally gets there. Yeah. We're still, we couldn't even connect to how we wanted to. We're pretty new into this whole thing, so we're trying. We are trying. What's that? We are trying to get there. Yeah, we really are. All right, thanks, you guys. We'll see you soon. Yeah, Malcolm, that was really helpful. Like I said, it's been such an ongoing theme for our office here, for how we want people, like our coaches, to think differently for the conference. And then we're changing. Oh yeah, thank you. We're changing how all the provincial funding works. Just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these guys didn't have their own PSA changes, so it was good. The people in the room are actually. Oh yeah, no, just a second.
All right. Learn a couple things.